Everyone, welcome to this special broadcast on a day when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the first budget of the decade, and of course the first budget after the COVID pandemic had hit the nation along with the rest of the world. There was need for the Modi government to rise to the occasion after the nation's economy took a huge hit due to the pandemic. Everyone expected the government to be on a mission mode to revive the economy. And yes, the budget did indicate the government's resolve to bring the economy back on track, and as expected, there was a huge focus on the health sector. In fact, the health sector spending is set to increase by 137%, and an allocation of rupees 35,000 crore has been made for COVID vaccines, with the announcement that India is on way to produce 2 new COVID vaccines. In fact, the focus has been on self-reliance, and in keeping with that, the government has announced a slew of schemes totaling 27.1 lakh crore to deal with the COVID pandemic under the Atmanirbhar package. If there has been emphasis laid on welfare schemes like One Nation, One Ration Card scheme, there is a big push to road and rail connectivity projects. The government has set a target to build 11,000 kilometers of national highways this year, including 1,300 kilometers in Assam. And an allocation of rupees 1.10 lakh crore has been made for the Indian Railways to make it a future-ready railway system by 2030. The budget has laid bare the government's disinvestment policy by setting a target of 1.75 lakh crore this fiscal by way of receipts, and said 2 public sector banks and a general insurance company will be privatized soon. The government has also talked about its commitment to farmers' welfare and has increased the agriculture credit target to 16.5 lakh crore. But there has been only a marginal increase in defense allocation. Highway aside, the only other mention of the Northeast came in the form of a rupees 1,000 crore allocation for the welfare of tea community women and children in Assam and West Bengal. Anyway, there will be a lot of interpretations of the budget 2021, which has been, of course, a tightrope walk for the government to discuss the budget and whether it can make India achieve its 11% growth rate projection, and whether this budget is the game changer to bring India back on its economic growth trajectory. I am joined by Economist MP Bezbaruah. Industry expert and former finer chief R.S. Joshi is also with me. Joining me also is Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta, professor at Guwahati University and a political scientist, well-known commentator. From Shillong, I am joined by Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, professor at Nehu and a political analyst. Dr. Sriparna Baruah from IIE Guwahati is also with me. I am also joined by Assam BJP Vice President Swapnanil Baruah, who is currently in Dhubri in Western Assam. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special broadcast on Budget 2021. Let me first come to you, Mr. Dr. MP Bezbaruah. Dr. MP Bezbaruah, first of all, your general comment. Let me have an opening round from all my panelists. So I request all my panelists to be brief in their opening comments. Your opening comments on the budget. Do you think this budget is going to help India achieve its 11% growth rate that has been projected in the economic survey?
Thank you, Wasbir, for having me here. First of all, let us understand one thing. This 11% is slightly misleading because we are talking about a V-shaped recovery now.
Right.
So basically, we had gone down in the first quarter this year by 23%, from which we have started recovering in the next 2, probably next 3 quarters. And so overall, we will be down by 7% this year. So next year, 11% means, 7 and 7.2% will be basically.
So it will be actually 6.8%.
No, it will be about 4%. Actually,
okay.
Which was also the growth rate before the pandemic. So that all we can say is that this is not extraordinary, but we are going to be getting back the normal growth path again. But that's, I think, fairly quick. Considering the massive setback that we had in the first quarter.
All right. All right. Now, we need to also go. Let me quickly take the opening remarks from Mr. R.S. Joshi, former Chief of Finance Federation of Industries in Northeastern Region, industry expert. Mr. R.S. Joshi, how do you look at the budget? Let's discuss the overall budget as such, because there is nothing much as far as specific to the Northeast this time, except for the fact that 1,300 kilometers of highways are going to be made, etc., and 1,000 crore allocation for tea community in Assam and West Bengal. We don't know the breakup as yet. Yes, Mr. Joshi, your general comments on the budget.
See, in the present circumstances, there could not have been a better budget. Most befitting response, unprecedented response, budgetary response by Honorable Finance Minister to the COVID hit economy. There are many things in the budget. They have not compromised with the basics. They have taken calibrated risk in restoring the economy back on track. As a whole, I would just say it's a historic budget, once in a century budget.
Why do you say so?
Reason being, see, in such a circumstances, COVID hit economy, we have gone down, as Mr. Bezbaruah mentioned, to about 24% in first quarter of the financial year. But then again, there is a quick recovery, and quick recovery is seen. The latest data, which is not a window dressing, see the January collection of GST. This is the record high at 1,20,000 crore rupees. So see, unless there is a vibrance in the economy, trade activities in the economy, you cannot expect such kind of massive GST collection. So credit goes to the government, to the ministry. See, they have well managed the economy in this present very, very difficult time we have ever faced.
Okay.
And also to the people of India for,
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they have supported.
Let me go to Dr. Prasenjit Biswas in Shillong. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, as the finance minister said, is a phenomenal, GST collection this time. The phenomenal is the word that the finance minister, if I'm not mistaken, had used. And now our panelist, Mr. R.S. Joshi, had also said there's been a phenomenal collection of GST. My question is, if that being the so, a lot of people are asking the question, why go for generation of funds for capital expenditure by disinvesting? Now, the target set for disinvestment receipts is 1.75 lakh crore. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, do you see a contradiction there, or do you see that this is part of the government's overall income generation policy for enhanced capital expenditure?
See, the market borrowing is 12 lakh crores. The para 141 of the budget speech is very important in the entire budget speech. You can see that the fiscal deficit is packed at 9.5% of the GDP. And also there is a proposal for disinvestment to the extent of 80,000 crores, for which we would be approaching the markets in next 2 months. Now, this shows that the financial resources are quite scarce. So the outlay figures are very high, while the provisioning of the financial resources is not adequately matched with the outlay figures. So there seems to be a lot of gaps, and there are a lot of things that needs to be covered up while the revised estimates will be drawn. So therefore, there is a need for an increased stimulus for public expenditure, which has not happened. Although the GDP budget deficit in ratio to the GDP has grown higher, yet we don't see much of a stimuli for the economy.
So, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, are you saying that government has been forced to go for disinvestment?
Now, disinvesting the public sector may not generate adequate amount of fund, or disinvesting the public sector banks actually will create a lot of problem for public funding of the health sector, education and other such necessary public infrastructure such as defense and roads, etc. If public banks are disinvested, from where public funding will come remains an open question. And this question comes from para 141 of the budget speech. Please look at that.
I am coming to you, Dr. Sriparna Baruah. Let me quickly go I'm also coming to you, Mr. Swapnanil Baruah, for an overall comment. But let me go to Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta, joining me from Guwahati University. Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta, I mean, how do you see, on one hand, the government says that it is going to disinvest disinvestment policy has been laid bare, 1.75 lakh crore. This fiscal alone is the target. Government is giving foreign direct investment to the insurance sector, privatizing the insurance sector in a way. And, of course, on one hand, these are the things. On the other hand, as expected, massive boost to the health sector, because this is the lesson learned during COVID, that we need massive boost to the health sector, infrastructure, as well as research and development in the medical sector. Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta.
I think I find a lot of contradictions of the whole notion of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the self-reliant economy. And on the one hand, you were talking about the self-reliant economy, but the question is, whose self-reliance are you talking about? This is the fundamental question. When I look at the budget speech and read it carefully, we find that this is depending on corporatization of the economy, privatization of the economy. If you look at, read it carefully, it has very and openly, and the governments which were also passing the the privatization process didn't speak so openly. Now the government has spoken so openly about disinvestment and selling out of public properties. On the one hand, you are selling out the public properties. On the other hand, you are talking about the self-reliant economy or the Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think this is Atmanirbhar for the corporates. This is not Atmanirbhar for the common citizens.
Okay, that's a point. I'll take a response from Mr. Swapnanil Baruah, but before that, Dr. Sriparna Baruah, how do you look at this economy? How do you look at this budget? Do you think this budget is a game changer? Do you think this budget is going to make India emerge from the hit it has taken because of the COVID pandemic?
Wasbir, what I feel is this budget is trying to create an ecosystem for enterprises to grow. It is looking at the aspiration of the youth as well as looking at the vulnerable section also. So if you look at the value chain, it's trying to hit the entire value chain. So from that perspective, I think it's creating the right environment, and particularly the sunrise sectors like your health, which your agri and allied services. So these are sectors which has been an infrastructure. So the emphasis on these major sectors and the ecosystem which is trying to create by, not specifically saying that for this sector we are giving this much of, incentives, but then I think it's the right way of creation of enterprises and creation of jobs. That's what I feel, and I feel very positive about the budget.
Okay, very positive budget. That is what Dr. Sriparna Baruah is saying. Let me come to you, Mr. Swapnanil Baruah, Vice President of the Assam BJP. I want to particularly respond to Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta's comment that there is he sees, Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta says that the budget has a lot of contradictions as far as Atmanirbhar is concerned. On one side you are talking about Atmanirbhar, and on the other side you are allowing too much of foreign direct investment and so on and so forth. How would you respond to this particular case?
Well, I think Akhil has been seeing it from his perspective only, and that is rather an one-eyed opinion, if I may say so. The fact is that you need some money, and where does the money come from? You are spending 3,500 crores on the vaccine, or even more on the creation of infrastructure. Now, creation of infrastructure, if you see this, if you have gone into the budget speech of the Prime Minister, of the Finance Minister, you would have noticed that, the things that she has listed out, the improvement of the district hospitals. Imagine now I am in Dhubri at the moment, and I think Dhubri in another 3 months' time will be getting an ICU, which it has not got for the last 72 years. And imagine the nearest medical college hospital here is Barpeta, where you have ICU facilities. So considering the need in the COVID situation of having ICU facilities, I think these kind of investment will need a lot of money. And where does the money come from? I would draw the attention of all to that last point which the Finance Minister made, is regarding less of government and more of governance. Yes. I think the whole system is that not of selling public property, but making the public services more efficient. And in the due process also, getting in money for the benefit of the people, so that the basic poor people who need it and creation of infrastructure is attended to, and at the same time, the take-off spirit is which Sriparna had just indicated.
Okay, Dr. Akhil Ranjan Datta, I want to make a point. Yes, Akhil.
My understanding is that you are thinking in terms of consumption and you are thinking in terms of taking care of the kitchen. And while taking care of the kitchen, if you think in terms of selling out the living room, can you call it a Atmanirbhar Bharat? I'm not critical only about this government. This has been happening under economic reforms. My only apprehension is that this Atmanirbhar is like taking care of the kitchen, taking care of the consumption at the cost of the living room and the drawing room.
Okay, I'm coming to you, Dr. MP Bezbaruah, but Swapnanil Baruah, you know, the Congress is leave it on the budget. No one is going to be surprised at that. But a very interesting remark from Shashi Tharoor, who said that you take your car to the garage to fix the brakes, since the mechanic could not fix the brake, and later on said, okay, I could not fix the brake, so I have made the horn louder. That is what this budget is all about. That is what Shashi Tharoor is saying.
I mean, see, you can always find an explanation to whatever, I mean, to suit your convenience or your point of view.
Not my point of view.
No, but what I'm saying is that whoever says something against the budget will have some reason always, because, you know, it's like a debate. You have for the motion and against the motion, and the person against the motion will always find certain arguments against the motion.
Okay.
So similar, I think, is the case with the Congress, if the case may be.
So
and I think since they have nothing to say specifically on the budget,
now,
picking out
point
holes
noted,
in the budget,
Swapnil Baruah, point noted. Now, Dr. MP Bezbaruah, a 137% increase in the health sector spending. That is obviously a post-COVID scenario. Now, does it indicate the fact, does not expose the fact that the healthcare infrastructure in this country has been below par? We are not discussing Assam, we are not discussing Northeast, I'm talking about the general, I'm talking about the overall country. Do you think this has been a realization by the government post-COVID that the healthcare infrastructure needs a huge boost? And of course, this includes research and development, where the spending was below normal. I mean, much below expectations until recently.
Okay, I'll definitely answer that question, but give me half a minute to respond to what is going on between Akhil and Swapnanil. See, here is a problem, you know. When you see that this investment is actually, you know, sort of giving it to the corporate, that's not it actually. If you download it in the stocks in the share market, through the mutual funds or whatever, even the small investors get to actually get a share of the whole thing. So it's not actually, it is, when it is in the public sector, it is basically politicians and the aristocracy of the working classes industry. In fact, if you disinvestment, it can be more, you know, widely held by general public. I'm not saying that it cannot go to corporates also, it may, but there is opportunity for this. This is something I wanted to talk about. And second thing is that Shashi Tharoor, of course, he is from Congress.
No,
so he has to
come to the health sector spending.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
So he uses, you know, creativity and wonderful words to do it, but he also accepts that, you know, if you cannot fix the brake, you know, if you make the horn louder, it works to some extent. Anyway, so some concession he actually gets. Now, see, suddenly when we had this COVID thing, we realized that the health infrastructure is actually not there. You know, suddenly we realized makeshift hospital, this and that is something, you know. So I think this is one thing. COVID has a negative, one silver lining on the cloud is that, you know, we have realized and we have now trying to do the sort of health infrastructure. And it's going, like Swapnanil mentioned, it's going to the villages, health centers and so on. And this is all for public sector. And there could be some private sector also things are happening, things may be happening. So I think this can really be a game changer. It should be making Akhil very happy because he has been all the time craving for, you know, more investment in the health sector.
Okay, now
Can I just make a point here? Just make a point here. You know, this is an extension. If you remember, the Prime Minister last year had started a scheme of having medical colleges in every parliamentary constituency. This is basically to address the needs of the Indian public health standards, which is available in Google, which is 1,000 one doctor per 1,000. We are now 35,000 people and one doctor. That has to be reduced. So this is a continuing exercise of improving the health sector, for which you are seeing the growth of medical colleges in Assam as an example.
Right. Let me turn to you, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. I'm coming to you, Mr. R.S. Joshi. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, the basic thing that, you know, Why do you think the government had decided, a lot of people are saying that this is going to impact, but this may not be the case. The agri cess of 2.5 rupees per litre on petrol and 4 rupees per litre on diesel. But a lot of people on the superficially, if you look, you think that this is going to impact the consumers, but that is not apparently the case because you have the basic excise duty cut and agriculture cess imposed. So it evens out. Actually, at the end of the day, this agriculture cess is not going to impact the common person, common consumer, because you might have increased 2.5 per litre on petrol and 4 rupees per litre on diesel, but you have reduced the basic excise duty that was already in force.
These arguments are a little paradoxical, because if you have increased the petrol prices and diesel prices, certainly it will have a pinching effect on someone's pocket. But on the other side, if you increase agricultural cess and if you collect money for funding the food sector to the tune of 1,20,000 crores in the FCI and other such food-related investment, that investment, of course, is a public investment, but public investment is grown from pinching the pockets of the ordinary public and thereby having a deleterious market impact in terms of rising food prices. So therefore, this will not help the poorer section of the people. Maybe middle classes will not be so much pinched, but the ordinary citizen whose income is below 80,000 rupees per year will bear the brunt of this entire exercise. So
Dr. MP Bezbaruah has a comment.
Paradoxical.
MP Bezbaruah is responding.
I think it's slightly, slightly different. I'm not saying it's like you said, there may not be any impact of this particular cess on the price we pay on petrol and diesel, because the excise will be reduced. But there's going to be one good effect and one probably not so good effect. One good effect is that the cess is collected for a particular purpose. So this will be for agriculture, whatever purpose. So it has to be spent for that particular purpose.
So that is the positive. That is the positive of this.
Negative is that, if excise duty is shareable with the states, whereas cess will be pocketed entirely by the central government. So it will not be shared with the states. So
for example, Dr. MP Bezbaruah, the basic excise duty on petrol was rupees 12 earlier. Now it has been reduced to rupees 11. So the state share might get slightly reduced, but as Dr. MP Bezbaruah is saying, there's 2.5 per litre or whatever additional agri cess is collected, that has to be spent for a particular purpose that is in the field or in the realm of agriculture. I think that is the positive. And at the end of the day, I think it evens out. I don't know whether Dr. Prasenjit Biswas agrees with this, but we'll not carry on with this because we'll have to move on. Let me go to R.S. Joshi. Mr. R.S. Joshi, there is a lot of emphasis laid on connectivity, whether it is road connectivity. The budget says that 11,000 kilometers of new highways will be constructed, including 1,300 kilometers in Assam. Now, secondly, the government has allocated 1.10 lakh crore for the Indian Railways to make it a future-ready railway by 2030. Now, does it help industry? Does it help trade and commerce? If we only talk about connectivity, in what way is it going to impact? Is it going to automatically have an impact? What is your take on this?
See, connectivity is the future. See, industry is very worried about, particularly in the northeast part of our country. There is a massive push, big push to infrastructure spending, big push to health sector. First comes the infrastructure sector. And thanks to election in our state and some other states of the country, there is a massive funding for the road connectivity. So that's a really good. Industry will certainly benefit. Not only industry, entire segment of economy going to be benefited. If you allow me one point regarding this selling public property.
Right.
See, if you sell public property which is not properly utilized for the better of the economy, where the money is going, how the money is coming, where the money is coming from.
That we'll discuss. You're talking about the disinvestment plans of the government. But please answer my question. Whether it is connectivity, whether it is railways and highways, how is it going to impact on industry? Is it going to boost industry in a far-flung region like the Northeast where industrialization is below par?
Yes, it will take, industrialization will take in northeast part of country, and we may have the dedicated corridor, etc. in time to come for the northeast region also, like in some other part of the country. See, country as a whole is going to benefit it, so is going to be benefit is going to be there for the northeast as well. So absolutely no doubt about it. See, there is going to be buoyancy in the economy in every aspect, and industry naturally expect. You see the celebration in the capital market today. The high, record high jump in the Sensex, 2,300 points. So there is a upbeat mood in the capital market. Reason being they expect new investment, new investors. Everything is feel good factor is there for all sector of the economy.
You're talking about, yes, Sriparna, I wanted to see your saying.
Wasbir, can I add just one point?
Let Sriparna speak first. Yes, Sriparna.
What Mr. Joshi has said is that infrastructure automatically, when infrastructure is created, industries start happening, because one of the major problems, and then we have the thrust on the health sector.
Yeah.
We are talking about tourism, and tourism is one of the major industries of Northeast. If we look at, how does the tourism happen? The infrastructure comes in, then naturally tourism as an industry comes in. And when we are talking, giving emphasis on health, automatically medical tourism with our neighboring countries is a high possibility that I see. With this investment coming in.
So you see a connect there. You see a connect.
I see a
So
connect.
Sriparna sees a connect in connectivity and industrialization, or for that matter, boost in investment.
Definitely.
Yes, Swapnanil Baruah, you were saying something. I'm coming to you, Akhil, and go for a break then.
The point is that, we are talking about the railways. I think sitting in Guwahati, I never knew that there is a new railway line parallel to the other one. It's quite far away. It will pass through Dhubri town and connect all the way to Coach Bihar. And today morning I went around and saw that the electrification is nearly complete now. Now imagine the speed that will happen in the railway traffic once electric traction comes into play. I mean, these are the things which are happening.
These are the benefits of the BJP Vice President camping in Dhubri, which is the gateway to Bengal and to the rest of India.
In
and
fact,
of course,
I was surprised seeing another tunnel today. All this time we thought that the half-long tunnels were the only ones in Assam.
Yeah.
But now here we have somewhere near Sapor, our old Swordsingha's place, that there's a big tunnel which has been dug through a hill connecting this second railway line.
Okay. Akhil, Ranjan, Dutta, I have to go for a break very quickly. Linkage between connectivity and investment boost or industrialization.
No, this is most welcome. If you can invest in infrastructure development and that generates an ecosystem or an environment for investment, definitely it is a welcome stage and it is expected to be done by the government. But when I am talking about the disinvestment and privatization of the corporates, I am keeping in mind, if you look at the Oxfam report, the inequality rate, the growth of inequality has risen like anything. Now, that is why we are very, very critical about it. The second question is it also helping towards solving the unemployment problem? We have not talked about it. And the third one is it also generating enough livelihood resources for the commons? If we do not address these questions and we glorify the kind of packages which have been declared by the government, I think we are not doing justice to the very commons.
All right. On that note, I'll have to go for a break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. There is a sort of confusion. I don't know whether my panelists can throw light on this, but let me talk about the confusion first because it relates to the Northeast. Now, there are some reports which are in circulation. The report says, or I would use the word claims, that the allocation for donor, the ministry, which is the ministry concerning the Northeast, has been reduced by 390 crore. Now, perhaps this is coming out of the budget estimate of 2021, that is last fiscal, where the budget estimate for donor was 3,048 crore. But the expenditure shown, which is also can be described perhaps as the revised estimate, was 1860 crore. That was last fiscal. But this time, apparently, because I have not seen the papers myself, although it has just come to me, this fiscal, the donor budget estimate is 2,658 crore. If we look at it superficially, from 3,048 crore of budget estimate last year, it has come down to 2,658 crore, which is less by 390 crore. But can we say that donor budget allocation has been reduced? Perhaps not, because that was the budget estimate. Expenditure last time was 1860 shown, and this fiscal, out of 2,658 crore, the expenditure could be 2,500 crore, who knows? So, what superficial, I'm not going to go deep into this debate. Let me quickly ask this question to Dr. MP Bezbaruah and Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. We'll not debate on this, but what is your reading of these figures?
I start or Prasenjit?
Yeah, you start, MP Bezbaruah.
Okay. See, this is something which you have just told us. I haven't seen the papers. You see, donor ministry money basically comes from where? We have to look at the source. Each department is supposed to keep 10% of their money specifically.
Which is the non-lapsable pool of resources.
I mean, basically, the amount they utilize. Rest, they put it in the non-lapsable pool, which is handled by the donor ministry. So there could be quite possible that they might have, sort of utilized more, or maybe that was for one time that they may not have enforced this because of the COVID scene. So this allocation may have come down. Or this may be because last year some amount was not utilized.
So the allocation is less because you already have the money from last year's balance.
But that total doesn't add up.
Yes, Swapnanil Baruah?
The thing is, the budget exercise is something like this, that you look at last year's expenditure and then add 10 or 20%, unless there's a specific attention in that particular sector. Now, what has happened insofar as donor and its spending agency NEC is concerned, there's been a change of subjects. The scope of NEC has been slightly reduced. Let's say sports has gone out. Some live public youth activities have been slightly reduced. So that has been taken over by donor. Donor again has transferred. These kind of internal adjustments are going on in the department itself of donor and the NEC, which is resulting in this.
Right. Let's not be on that at this point in time because it lacks clarity. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas and Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta. Let me go to Dr. Akhil Ranjan Dutta first. One nation, one ration card. This is part of the government's welfare push. I mean, considering that we are relying so heavily on digital technology, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth, these kind of things are quite possible because, in fact, the census is also going to be digitalized. That is what this budget says. Now, how do you look at this one nation, one ration card exercise? Do you think after Aadhaar, after NRC, and now this will be another exercise which will involve, the question of citizenship and so on and so forth? Do you think everybody will get a ration card? Do you think it is again going to be a huge exercise?
No, I have not studied it very carefully, but I think that one nation, one ration card is a good idea because you have a lot of national schemes like National Food Security Act. Now, because you have the National Food Security Act, it is expected that every citizen of the country will have access to the benefits under the National Food Security Act.
Right.
But under the present arrangement, what happens that states are the nodal agencies and states will only recognize the domiciles of the citizens of that respective states. Now, if the ambition or objective of the one nation, one ration card is to give benefits like MREGA, give benefits under a particular scheme to every citizen, irrespective of whether he or she belongs to this particular state or to the other particular state, it will be a great immediate relief, particularly for the migrant workers.
Absolutely, that is the idea.
Yeah, so that is the idea. If that is the idea, I think this is a welcome stage if it is not meant for surveillance.
I think Prosenjit Biswas, I think this is a path-breaking. A lot of people think, I also think that it is perhaps a path-breaking idea to have one nation, one ration card, because what the finance minister said is that if migrant worker, one member of the family from the northeast, for example, is in Delhi, he or she will be able to avail the benefit of the food schemes, and the rest of the family living elsewhere also will get the rest of the quota. So, do you think it is a great idea, or do you have a counter view?
Food activists like Harsh Mandar and others have pointed out that even during the Aadhaar card and connecting Aadhaar card with the food distribution, we have seen a lot of people not receiving the adequate food that they are supposed to receive from ration shops. Now, ration shops are controlled by the state government. So, how is it that across all the states there could be one card which will ensure seamless distribution of ration goods to the concerned beneficiary? So, you cannot have it like you have a direct benefit transfer. So, therefore, in distribution of food, you must have local, regional and state level identities, without which you won't be able to deliver food to the concerned person. So, there are shortcomings of this kind. Rather, this kind of a project connects itself to food subsidy in the form of direct benefit transfer.
Coming to you,
food subsidy
Wasbir,
without giving
just
food
I'd
is
like
not
to
what
add,
it is counterproductive
is
completely.
that, now the ration card before was never under any kind of act. Now the ration card being a national thing will come under the food security purview of the Food Security Act. So that adds a legal sanction to the whole ration card idea.
Adds a legal sanction to the whole ration card idea. Now, Dr. MP Bezbaruah, I'm coming to you, Sriparna, on this. Dr. MP Bezbaruah, the critics of the government, they say that this government is only encouraging a beneficiary economy. They're creating a beneficiary economy with various kinds of schemes that go directly to the person, rather than creating a situation that will enable livelihood generation schemes so the person will stand on his or her own feet. That is one of the criticism which not many are buying though. But what is your take on this?
See, we have to look at the time. This time, we know that we are recovering quite well.
Yes.
But at the same time, a lot of people, say for instance, those who are involved in the hospitality sector, that was one of the most employing sectors. So there are many who have not been able to get their, back their foot in, sort of migrant workers, and so many people have actually suffered during the pandemic. So this benefit has to be continued.
So you are in extraordinary circumstances, needing an extraordinary response, and beneficiary economy is a part of that. That's what you are saying.
Yes, but in the longer run, this is not a topic here. We require another session for this. The country will gradually have to move into the universal basic income system, and I think many of the central sector schemes now are being clubbed under the, I think in the budget also it was mentioned. So we need to be more efficient regarding how we sort of make the transfer. Now, one more problem here is, I think Akhil and others are going to support me. See, what is happening in fact is that there is a transfer to the poor in the pandemic. That has really helped. But transfer has been through basically fuel prices. So middle class is flourished rather than the top bridge.
Yeah,
okay.
Now, how do you look at it, Sriparna, on this particular, this same question goes to you.
I think it's the right move which has been doing, and I completely agree with what Madhurya Bezbaruah has said. This is a time when, we need to support people, because there are so many migrant workers, there are people who really suffered, and particularly retail and then hospitality. These are sectors which people have really suffered. So I think that is absolutely correct. And I would like to further go on from here to look at, also some of the changes which the budget is trying to make in a very subtle way. We are looking at health from a larger perspective, but look at, we are also giving a lot of importance to things like preventive approach, which means that Ayurveda as a, alternative medicine, there'll be huge business opportunity in the alternative medicine sector. So that is one sector which is going to come in. Then we also look at, education is the other enabler. Then we are looking at MSMEs. The huge investment which has come to MSMEs, we are keeping 15,700 crores for the MSME sector. So I think these are, automatically things are going to happen and micro enterprise creation will start happening, and that's how this, that's the trust I think which is being laid.
Now, R.S. Joshi, Mr. R.S. Joshi, did you expect, this budget to come up with specific schemes for a remote region like the northeastern region, which also took a hit due to COVID, or do you think northeastern region was far better placed and therefore there was no specific mention of the northeast? Of course, these welfare schemes, the beneficiary schemes directed directly at the beneficiaries will obviously naturally trickle down to people in the northeast as well. What is your perspective on this?
See, one thing I would like to point out, see, the informal sector has shrunk like anything. Now these all informal sector,
okay,
which used to provide jobs, much more than the formal sector. So that has suffered a lot during this COVID and pandemic and or lockout, etc. And now all these developments and GDP, etc. is because of the formal sector is picking up. But not so in the informal sector. So till we have the informal sector back on the track, we must continue with all these benefits, direct DBT, etc., etc. So these are another point. See, once there is a so big push to infrastructure and every other sector as well. See, every nook and corner, be it northeast and other part of the country, are going to be benefited. They have not specified, but see, now the government's thought process is that every nook and corner must get benefit of the development process. It's not limited to metros or some advanced states or like that. And it's good for the northeast. We have got a good massive funding from the northeast for last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And this is seen in this budget also.
Akhil, Ranjan, Dutta, you want to say something?
To your original question, what about the beneficiary schemes being pursued by the government? I think scheme like MREGA, scheme like National Food Security Act are much needed schemes. But when the government goes for endless beneficiary schemes, it creates a chronic dependence on the government of the common people. That creates a lot of problems. It doesn't really help in creating a productive environment or creating people who are indulging in production themselves. Look at Assam, for example, although it is not Assam budget. The way the government has been indulging in creating one after the other kind of beneficiary schemes, it is creating a lot of challenges. Look for a free textbook. Apparently, this is very good, but it is having a lot of negative impact on these small booksellers and book producers. Therefore, this has to be read very, very critically and carefully.
Now, let me go to Swapnanil Baruah. Yes, Swapnanil Baruah.
I just add a point here. What I wanted to tell you is that the one thing which is unseen in the government programs is that you are seeing that many schemes are coming in, but basically, if you look at the target, it is first primarily focused on 30% of the population. And the idea is that their expenditure on basic livelihood should be reduced to such an extent that their income is available as an investable surplus so that they can go into their own enterprises. The basic idea, if you do a calculation of how much a person saves, a beneficiary of a government now saves nearly ₹1 lakh per annum, which he can save and put it later on for creating his own business.
Now, Swapnanil Baruah,
yes.
Did you expect, as someone belonging to the party in power at the government, at the center, as well as, of course, the state, did you expect this budget to have a few other things directed at Assam, considering that we are on an election year?
Well, I think this is the change of whatever needed to be done has already been done. The last 4 years now is the year to show people as to what has been done in the last 4 years because of the increased allocation available by the government of India. So this year specific, considering that the fiscal situation of the government of India is still under stress, we expected, yes, definitely there's no harm in expecting, but we were slightly skeptical as to whether some specific schemes would be available other than the normal ones. But these normal ones will also benefit all of us. So in that sense, we are 70 to 80% satisfied. Maybe that less 20%, a few more allocation for rural infrastructure development specifically, if
That
we could
can
have
be
got,
made up
would
perhaps by
definitely
the
have
state
been the
government.
icing in the cake.
Okay.
Can I have a question?
Very
for,
quickly, I'm going to
Swapnanil
Prasenjit
Baruah?
Biswas. Yes, Akhil.
Yeah.
Akhil, yes.
Yeah, is it like this because you have the same party ruling in the state, so you got a lot of benefits from the center? Now, because the other states are also going for election where you didn't have, your party was not in power. Therefore, center is giving more attention
that
in
is a
terms of giving
conspiracy
packages
theory.
to those states.
Akhil, that looks like
Yes.
looks like your conspiracy theory. I'm not defending anybody.
No, I'm
but
just asking Swapnanil Baruah. Yes, yes.
Okay. Let's not go into that. Prasenjit Biswas. You know, the budget the government has talked about its commitment to the farmers' welfare, and has also increased the agriculture credit target to 16.5 lakh crores. That is the increase in the agriculture credit target, 16.5 lakh crores, and the government has once again reiterated its commitment to the welfare of the farmers. Now, there are a lot of talk about the MSP and so on. How do you look at this? Because we are seeing a farmers' agitation is already in progress for more than 2 months now.
Now, this is a basic weakness of the entire policy-making perspective of this budget, that you borrow from the market or you lend credit to the people. Now, merely lending credit is not going to help generating demand in agricultural sector, which is already shrunken. We have seen very less growth of Indian agricultural sector in terms of income generation or employment generation in this current fiscal year. So therefore, it required a lot of boosting, not merely credit generation. It really required giving more safety and a sense of financial security among the poor peasantry or the middle peasantry across the country, along with a good MSP. Now, if this could have been spelt out in terms of monetary figures in budget, then that would have created a better sense of agriculture. So that way the budget leaves a certain kind of a loophole into it, which may be filled up by the local level actors, by the state government, by complementing what the central government wants to do with this agriculture sector.
Final comments from you. I'm running short of time. Dr. M.P. Bezbaruah, final comments from you.
I shall be absolutely brief, just 2 points. Credit, agricultural credit, I'm not too impressed because we have repeated cycles of non-payment, then again loan waiver, and that way we actually destroyed the rural credit market itself. So that is something I'll leave at. But other thing which is more serious, I think, the government is giving a lot of benefits which has worked in the COVID situation, and it's going to continue to give benefits to the poor. Transfers are required, transfers and taxes are actually ways of equalizing the thing. But there is a lot of exclusion. For instance, in Assam also you see many people don't have Aadhaar, so they are not getting benefits. So even Sriparna madam also mentioned 80% has getting benefits, some 20% are left. So we have to really eliminate the exclusion error. In this context, I think citizenship, this, that, we are talking about that. Let us limit citizenship question to only in case of voting. Otherwise, for benefits, let residency be the criteria. Anyone? Like is in USA. So if you are a green card holder, you can get
I think Manager Bezbaruah has given us a food for thought, fit enough to be the subject of an entire debate. R.S. Joshi, your final comments.
See, there are good things about capital market. They are coming out with a single code, security code, replacing so many laws we have. So that has been welcomed by the capital market. See, the size of budget has gone up exponentially.
Yes.
So that speaks when I see why we are borrowing. See, you just can't see the borrowing in negative sense. We are creating assets, we are creating jobs, we are giving push to the economy, extraordinary measures needed for the extraordinary situation. Another thing, see, in such a circumstances, you see the confidence of government.
Right.
They are in the command of the economy. They come what may. they will address the situation. This is again a really good thing.
Absolutely.
See, one thing I would like, see the feel-good factor they have been able to create. Like once we had such kind of feel-good factor when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister and we had a dream budget. Still people remember it. They have taken a very calculated, calibrated risk of borrowing. And see, one thing you must take note of, monetization of assets.
Modernization of assets.
This is going to fund massively in time to come. They have not spelled out how much the
So monetization of assets is really one of the big things.
Big thing.
Absolutely. Sriparna, Baruah, final comments, 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that we have not touched upon the human capital aspect of the budget. And their education and skills, particularly realigning
Higher education mission.
Higher education mission, and
That is
particularly
going
the
to come up.
realigning the national apprenticeship training to technical graduates and others is a
Right.
very welcome, because there will be a lot of unlearning will be required, particularly in the context of technology taking the key, the mainstay. So I
Absolutely.
think that's very important. And one thing which I would like to mention, there's nothing called for women as such, because we are trying to create women, and if
Okay.
we're looking at enterprise creation, there's nothing specifically for women. They do require some special focus.
Women
Support.
require some special focus. Prasenjit Biswas, final comments, 20 seconds. Okay, Akhil Ranjan Dutta, your final comments.
Yeah, my concern as a citizen of a democratic country, my concern is it leading towards concentration of wealth or distribution of wealth? If we think that only the common people will be, benefited only through the beneficiary schemes, and they'll not be, beneficiary of the total production or total the process of the economic activities, that will not fulfill the democratic aspirations of the people.
Right. Swapnanil Baruah, the Prime Minister called the budget an Atmanirbhar budget.
I think I cannot but agree with him, and I think BJP too has a tremendous challenge of governance issues. I think the whole thing the ball has been thrown in our court, and now it is up to us as to how much our government, which is coming again, will take it up.
Okay,
Sir,
Prasenjit Biswas, final comments. Prasenjit Biswas. Prasenjit Biswas, your final comments. Okay, Prasenjit Biswas is
Last
not.
line, sir.
Yes, Joshi.
See, we all can
Let's fix
have.
the line to Prasenjit Biswas. Yes.
We all can have sigh of relief. There is no COVID tax as we feared in the
No
budget.
COVID tax as we feared. That is what Raj Joshi is saying. It does not, that the common man has not been taxed for the hit the economy took because of COVID. Prasenjit, if you can hear me, final comments.
Yeah.
Prasenjit, last word. Okay, Prasenjit Biswas cannot hear me.
The budget needs to be welfare centric. I can hear you. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, carry on.
So the budget should be welfare centric. It should give an impetus on developing aggregate demand, and therefore there must be an emphasis on public expenditure, not on credit and lending, but creating a situation whereby the demand goes higher and accordingly supply side needs to be adjusted, the fiscal policy needs to be adjusted. I see a lot of maladjustment in the budget figures.
Absolutely. The budget has come in extraordinary days, extraordinary circumstances that the nation, as with the rest of the world, had been passing through in the last almost year, and of course this is the first budget of this decade, first budget after COVID has hit the world, India included, and therefore there have been a lot of tightrope walking. But at the end of the day, the question remains whether this is the budget that is going to be a game changer and make India see or reach its 11% growth trajectory target in the days ahead. That is what we have to wait and watch. On the whole, the budget has a lot to cheer. The markets have given a big thumbs up to the budget. Nifty as well as Sensex have shown a huge rise. The Sensex, of course, saw a height of a high of rise of more than 2,300 points, and Nifty, of course, 646, nearly 650 points, and these are matters for cheer. On this note, I end this edition of Notice tonight. Thank all my panelists for participating in the show and the viewers for watching the program. Pardon me, that was the special broadcast on Debate Not Noticed tonight. Good night and goodbye.